Sweat issues come in various forms, and each has its unique challenges. There's more to hyperhidrosis, from focal to generalized, than meets the eye. Knowledge is power, and without further ado, let's start the show.
Thank you very much for gracing our platform today, and I'm so excited, by the way, to have you. It's been a journey for HAK, and we connected with you, I think, if I'm not wrong, around 2020, thereof 2020, 2021. And I'm always elated to see the growth of the Sweat family especially across the African continent. And I've been pushing to see people, to see advocates, besides myself. I want to see advocates from different African countries representing their country, representing their Sweat family, and to have you, create a wonderful platform. I say to myself now, I have another Sweat family now from South Africa whom I want to work with in this journey. So thank you very much for gracing us and for being our guest. We welcome you. Karibu sana. And start by introducing yourself and what you do, and tell us about South Africa. You have the floor, you have the mic.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. My name is Maphoka Setai. I'm from the Free State in South Africa, a province called the Free State. I am a government employee. I work in economic development, and I'm very passionate about that. And I became an advocate after having followed Hyperhidrosis Kenya for a while. And I thought to myself, you know what, there's so many people in South Africa who suffer from this but don't know each other. Let me create a group or a forum where these people can come together and learn from each other. And South Africa is my home. South Africa is beautiful, but I know that will sound very subjective because I'm from South Africa. And that's about me.
Karibu sana. Welcome to the Situationship.
Thank you.
How did you discover that you have hyperhidrosis?
I think I've always had it, obviously, since I was a child, but to me, it seemed like an annoyance that my body had. Like, I remember I used to wear the jelly babies. These are plastic shoes for girls, and my feet would always slip in those shoes. So I just thought it's something that my body did, and I would tell my mother, listen, my feet slip in the shoes, and she'd say to me, no, my feet do the same thing. So it's only when I was in high school that I realized, but no, man, there's something really different about me as opposed to my peers, because I'd have the sweat stains under my armpits, and I would do everything to try and cover them, but nothing helped. And so I became more aware of my body in high school, and that's when I actually realized that, wow, I'm suffering from this particular thing. Yeah.
And what kind of impact did hyperhidrosis have in your life, from your early childhood, growing up at home, school life, and so on and so forth? Just take us through.
From my early childhood, I think because I was a child, when you're kids, you guys don't really worry too much about how you look and how you appear to your peers. But it started having more of an impact on me when I was in high school, because in high school now, you're a young lady, you want to look a particular way, you want to look put together, and you want to look nice. So in spite of all of my efforts to look as nice as all my counterparts did in school, and I went to a girls' school, mind you, so you can imagine that everyone there, you're 16, 17, you all want to look a particular way. And here I am walking around with sweat stains under my arms. So it did a lot in terms of sort of nudging or picking away at my self-esteem in a certain way. I think I'm also grateful that I didn't have facial hyperhidrosis in high school, because then it would have been worse. But because it was in the armpits, it was manageable. But it definitely did affect how I would show up around people. And because, when you've got these big sweat rings under your arm, the first thing that people look at, even if they don't want to look at it, that's what they see. So it definitely did have an impact on me at school. But at home, there wasn't really any judgment, because your parents are your parents, your family is your family. People, they don't really judge that much. But I felt that I had hyperhidrosis when I left the house. Yeah.
And in terms of challenges, because we know with hyperhidrosis there is no physical pain, but there is that social psychological stigma that is associated with it. So what are some of those challenges that you have faced, as someone living with hyperhidrosis, what we call the sweat pattern? What are some of those challenges?
I think it's a social stigma, I think, like you say. When people see someone with sweat stains, they already imagine to themselves that this person is not all put together. You're not all that put together if you're walking around with sweat stains. It's like you didn't take a bath, but you took a bath. You can't help the fact that your body sweats more than other people. And it's worse when you're a lady, because women are expected to look a certain way. So one thing that has always popped out is the judgment and the sort of stigma from people. But because I don't accept defeat very easily. You reject me once and it fits. If it has anything to do with my job or my school in that kind of setting, I still put myself out there, because at the end of the day, we still have to eat. But definitely a lot of stigma, a lot of judgment from people, a lot of judgment from people. They might not say it to you, but a lot of judgment. And I never know which one is better. The people who would say it to you that, why do you always have the sweat stains under your armpits? Or the people who don't say anything and talk about you. Both are hurtful, but maybe the person who asks and doesn't ask in a condescending tone is better, because then you can explain that, no, I suffer from 1, 2, 3. And when you're younger, when you're still in your teen years, you're ashamed of yourself anyways, because you're a teenager and you're figuring yourself out. Why am I like this? Because you're growing into your body. So when you're a teenager, it's worse. It's difficult to explain to anyone what's happening. So it's only now when you're an adult, when someone says it's something, you can respond and say, no, I don't do it on purpose. It's my body, So yeah, to answer you, stigma, judgment.
Yeah. And in your field of specialization, as working for the government, the question then is, how did you overcome all those challenges and become successful in your field of specialization? How did you do it?
Because like I said, I don't accept defeat very easily. I fall down, I get up again, and I push. Doesn't matter how many times I fall down. When I want something, I want it. So my tenacity, really, I've just really been very tenacious and felt like I go after what I have. And because I don't accept defeat very easily, I've scoured the internet since I was in varsity looking for solutions, So I tried Odeban right up to now, where I'm using Botox. So all of those small solutions that you find here and there have helped me to present myself in society in a somewhat put together way. But I know when I'm outside, when I'm with society, I think to myself, okay, I've got a good 45 minutes before the sweat starts pouring. So it buys me time. The medication does buy me a little time. Yeah.
And that has always been my message to the hyperhidrosis family, is to understand that despite having hyperhidrosis, excessive sweating, or other sweat-related issues, that doesn't mean that we cannot be successful in our field of specialization, the different fields. You don't have to shelve your dreams. You don't have to shelve that wonderful career that there is that, excuse me, there is that specific job that you want to go for. But at the back of your mind, you're telling yourself that I can't do this because of my sweat issue. Now let's tell the sweat family, at the end of the day, besides whatever the world think, the most important thing is what you think of yourself, how you think about yourself. That is what matters. This next question, you may feel free to answer or not. You know, I always request my guests, and I always prepare them if they are ready to answer, if they are comfortable or not. And this is the question of relationships. Has it affected you in your relationships? And in this context, I'm talking of romantic relationships.
It has and it hasn't. The people that I've dated in the past were not really superficial people. And like I say, it does buy me a certain amount of time. Fortunately, in winter, I don't really sweat that much. I sweat a lot in summer. So the people that I'm with, I would tell them that, listen, I've got an issue. I overheat, I sweat. So wherever we go, we must be mindful of stuff like that. And the people who really are into me because they're into me, they've been really nice and kind about it. But it's affected me in a sense that I have not maybe put myself out there to my fullest potential. I have not dated to my fullest potential. You know, I've sort of put a benchmark for myself and thought, anyone above this is going to expect me to not have sweat and I can't. You know, so on that level, I think it has. And the older I get, the more I realize that that's actually quite stupid, because if someone really does want to be with you, it doesn't matter. There are many interabled couples in the world. The problem is because our disability is not really visible. Like if you didn't have an arm, it's visible and people would know that. What can you do about it? But if you've got sweat on their upper lip, people think that you are the one that just doesn't look after themselves, you know? So it's the lack of understanding that sort of created that barrier for me. So yeah, it has and it hasn't.
And you know, being subconscious also contributes to it. Like, for instance, I have clients who do struggle with excessive sweating, and 90% of the time the sweat is in their mind. They could be in a place, they could be in a place and they are not sweating, but for some reason they believe that other people have noticed my sweat, or they notice that I'm smelling. So it's more of a subconscious thing. And
when you think about it, it happens. It sort of triggers it. Yeah.
And I always tell them that when you're in that, because it affects all of us, we are very subconscious about our sweat. You can even be in a place and you're not sweating, but in your mind, you're very convinced I'm sweating and people have noticed. And half of the time, maybe even these people haven't noticed anything.
They don't even see it. That's true.
You're very much okay. So when it comes to relationships, I think there is that fear of, what if this person sees me as, you know, I'm crazy, I'm different. You know, we start comparing. Or sees me as less than.
Yeah, you're right.
And you've said something that is very imperative, that when you're with someone who is totally into you, or rather when someone loves you, there are things which don't matter to them. They accept you as a package. So if you're with someone who's totally into you and they love you, then your sweat issue is no longer an issue to them. In fact, it's an issue, because now they accept you as a package. And what they end up doing, they end up supporting you. So those, if they come across a research, they share it with you. If they come across a treatment option, they're even going to invest in you because you're a package.
Your well-being.
So when we start limiting ourselves, we limit ourselves because most of the things are because of how subconscious we are when it comes to our sweat. In terms of dating, my message to the sweat family has always been, look at the most important things: character, the personality traits, because we have, you really don't want to date a narcissist. You really don't want to do that. So tell them, look at the character, look at the personality traits, look at the most important things, not the superficial things. And then always be open. Let the person know, I have this sweat issue. Don't hide from them. Don't remain silent and expect them to understand. They cannot understand until you talk to it.
Share.
Talk to them. Share. Talk to them. Have that conversation. Sit down and tell them, hey, I have a sweat issue. This is
I'm
me.
dealing with this issue. Yeah.
I'm dealing with the issue. So if there are times when I don't want to hold your hand, don't start preempting thoughts that don't exist.
Don't take it personally. That's true.
Don't think that I'm cheating on you or whatever it is. Just understand. I always tell the sweat family, be open and be honest, because if you don't share, then you're going to create thoughts to your other partner, thoughts which don't even exist, right? So I think it's a good thing that when people understand, and it's very crucial, understand your sweat first, understand that all these other things that make up the sweat journey, being subconscious about your sweat, worrying about what other people think about your sweat. If you have a proper understanding of these things, then you're going to now get to learn more about yourself. And once you learn about yourself, then the outside pressure becomes less, because the worst form of pressure is what happens internally. For me, I think that's the worst form of pressure.
Rock your badge of courage. Get ready to break the stigma and make a difference. This November, celebrating Hyperhidrosis Awareness Month. Empower yourself, challenge perceptions, and let your courage shine. Be part of it. Sweat without shame.
What are some of the treatment options that you have incorporated in managing your sweat?
Okay. So I started off with underarm sweat. I used Odaband for that, not Odaband, Dry Claw. But that was like 15 years ago, around matric, when I was in my last year of school. So that helped with the armpits, and it helped so good that actually my armpits stopped sweating for a lot of years. But the sweat then moved to my face. So for my face, I tried Odaband, but Odaband was not so good. I think Odaband is from Australia or around that side. That didn't work. And then I moved to Stop Sweat. I think it's got a green package. I think the name is Stop Sweat. That one used to burn my face quite a bit. And then I found out about there's medication that I found out about. It's over-the-counter medication, oxybutynin. I found out about that. I used that for a bit, but it used to make me too tired. So then I found out about Probentine. So that's over-the-counter medication that helps very well. It keeps the whole body dry. But again, you must take that on an empty stomach in the morning, and then it keeps you dry for around 4 or 5 hours. So at least you've got the first 5 hours of the day, you're nice and dry. But what I've done recently in the past maybe 3 years is I've started using Botox as well. I get Botox on my face. I get it for the smile line area and here on my hairline as well. That helps from like around September to January. I know my face will be nice and dry or relatively dry. And then for the rest of the body, I use the over-the-counter medication. But recently, I also bought the iontophoresis machine. That has also helped to keep my hands dry. The last time I used that machine was 3 weeks ago, and I used it for the hands and the feet, and I've been dry since. And I used it for a few weeks, 2 weeks consistently. The only place where it really isn't so effective is the face, because those hot spots on the machine for the face are actually only at the cheeks. So it just does the cheeks and the forehead, and then this area is dry. So I think we need to contact them and tell them how they can improve that machine to make sure that it gets all the areas. So I think my message in terms of medication is that hyperhidrosis is manageable, but it needs a sort of like a cocktail of medicines or medications, either over the counter, topical, and also a machine. But the problem is accessibility, because these things are actually quite expensive. For Botox for the face, I spent 4,000 rand per procedure. I don't know how much that is in your currency, but 4,000 rand is not small money considering what the economy is looking like. The iontophoresis machine was around 7,000 rand. I'm trying to find a way for me to, to claim it from the medical aid, because I know my medical insurance does cover hyperhidrosis. And then what else? So yeah, it's expensive, but it's manageable. Yeah.
Managing hyperhidrosis will always involve a combination of different therapies. And we're going to do a separate video where we're going to talk deeply into and delve deep into the treatment options. What would be your message to the hyperhidrosis family in South Africa?
My message is, let's band together so we can create awareness so that people know that there's hyperhidrosis and there's people who suffer with hyperhidrosis, so that the doctors can also take us seriously, so that the relevant government departments can make it easier for overseas medication to reach us. It's not that there isn't medication or ways to treat it. There are ways, but we just don't have proper access to them. So let's band together. Let's please subscribe to my channel or to like my page on Facebook, so that we can create a community that has a large voice, so that we can get the kind of treatments that we need. Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add?
I think, yeah, that's it really. I think as soon as there's one voice, when you go to a doctor and it's just you who suffers from hyperhidrosis, they don't really take you that seriously. They prescribe one thing, they leave you alone. But if there's a huge community, it makes it better. Just one anecdote, actually, before we finish. Earlier this year, the Probantine medication that I'm telling you about that I take, from last year, 2022 September, to this year around June, the medication was out of stock. I even went as far as calling the Aspen, who are the makers of the medicine, that I'm even on first name basis with the rep of the medicine, because I was pushing so much to get this back on the shelves. And that guy told me that actually you're not the only one with hyperhidrosis. There's many of you guys that have called because of this thing. But I thought to myself, had there been all of us calling from one organization, it would have been better to say, I'm calling from the Hyperhidrosis Society of South Africa. They did it quicker. And then one person in Joburg calls, one person in Cape Town calls. It's like, okay, do you know what I mean? So one voice is how we get the sort of services we need for us to be part of society. So yeah.
Well, this is one of the many videos that we are going to be doing, in terms of having this conversation. I choose to call them the sweaty topics. We're going to have a lot of this. And I'm also working my way around OBS. It's a streaming software. And that will give us more time where we can even be doing live YouTube videos. So I think in the next interview, I don't want to call it an interview, but the next conversation we are going to have, we might do it through YouTube Live, which I'll keep you posted. I'll just send you the link. But for this video, I wanted us to take this video as an introduction note: Hyperhidrosis Awareness Kenya and Hyperhidrosis Awareness of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And trust me, this is a journey and we are going to walk together. There is a lot to learn. Like I told you, you're going to be loved and hated in equal measure. But that is the price of advocacy. You are going to be the link to the hyperhidrosis family. You made a phone call to, the guys who produced that particular anticholinergic medication. And it's the same case here in Kenya. We ran out of glycopyrrolate. it was out of stock. And I had clients, I had people who they actually had a prescription for it. I had to go through more than 5 pharmacies just to look for that particular anticholinergic medication, even the likes of oxybutynin, because every certified dermatologist only prescribes about 2 mg. But that is a story for another day. Thank you very much. And hope to see you in the next video.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Karibu sana. I'll see you later.
Thanks. Bye.